So, The Last of Us is probably the best morally gray father-daughter story you will ever experience. Hands down. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel where we love hoodies, boycotting Goya, and video games. And today we are going to be talking about my experience playing the first Last of Us game, which, full disclosure, I completed a couple years ago, and I replayed it to get ready for The Last of Us Part 2, and here are my thoughts. So, 20 years after the breakout cordyceps virus destroys pretty much all of humanity, our last form of hope comes in Ellie, a 14-year-old girl who just so happens to be immune. We take control of Joel, who is tasked with sending her across the country, taking her across the country to this faction called the Fireflies in an attempt to create a cure and bring mankind to its former glory. So the main thing to talk about with this video game is mainly the story, which is incredible, but I'm going to talk about the gameplay first. So, like most Naughty Dog developed games, this is a very linear based game, and what I always loved about Naughty Dog games is there's always a forward sense of movement in the plot whenever you're playing. There's always subtle hints and clues to let you know that you are heading in the right direction, if then you are not greeted by a cutscene. So small pieces of dialogue, a character making like a small comment, or you're receiving some important information. All of these things, these breadcrumbs, always lead you to find the right spot. So even if you find yourself being lost, you're not really going to be lost for too long of the game. Also, something that I'm not too used to because I don't have too much experience playing these games is that this is a traditional survival horror game, which means resources are scarce, you gotta save your ammo, use stealth when needed. Speaking of which, the gameplay is brutal. So I started playing this game again right after completing all of the Uncharted games, and I was in the middle of a gunfight and then I just popped out and then I got hit immediately and it, staggered me for 2 seconds, and then I had to jump right back into cover because you can't just go in there guns blazing. I mean, you can, but the game will certainly punish you for that. So stealth is probably going to be your best bet, especially on the higher difficulties, because this game is anxiety just all the way through. You will not catch a break. So when I was showing my wife the game, I likened The Last of Us to God of War, and I told her, if you enjoyed the father-son aspect of the story of God of War, then you're going to really enjoy the father-daughter aspect of The Last of Us. And then, within the first 10 minutes, when Joel's daughter, Sarah, dies, she looked at me like, "Did you like me?" And then by the time the game ended, she sat there while emotionally drained. She got what I was saying in the comparison. So when it comes to the gameplay, there's always this sense of dread, like you are never really safe, and I think that's even more amplified in the sequel to this game, but you can never really relax when playing this game. There's something that's always going to be near the corner, something looming. You can never really relax in any given area unless there's a cutscene, and even then, you might as well be ready to fucking go to battle after a cutscene. Also, it's not a good idea to get attached to anyone, because is this a video game or seasons 1 to 4 of Game of Thrones? Because everyone you meet, everyone you like, will die, and it fucking tears my heart out every single time I played this game. When it came to the death of Tess, that one hit hard because I was liking the groove that the game was going in when you had Tess and Ellie. And also, for a while, the game kind of felt like this.
No. Still alive. No. Fucking piece of shit. God. Oh, God. Look at me. Look at my fucking eyes. God.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
And every single time I knew that my wife was experiencing something for the first time that she was like, oh my God, and I knew what was coming, we would always look at each other like this.
You ain't seen that one coming, did you? Hell no. Oh my God. I mean,
So more on the story, and I know I'm jumping all over the place. There's nothing to be said about The Last of Us that hasn't already been said, so I'm just gonna explain my thoughts and my opinion, things that were important to me in this game. You get a lot of great character moments in this game, and I think my personal favorite one comes toward the end of the game when David, the cannibal rapist, has Ellie, and he's about to do what cannibal rapists do to a 14-year-old girl, and this happens.
you think you know me? Huh? Well, let me tell you something. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Ellie! Stop! Stop!
Fucking touch me!
It's okay. It's me. It's me. It's me. Look. It's me.
He tried to...
Oh, baby girl. It's okay. It's okay.
No.
It's okay.
And there's this huge moment of catharsis when that happens, where it's like for some reason, it's the first moment where you feel, granted the game is not over by then, but that's the first time you feel like you can take a deep breath and everything is gonna be okay. And I don't know why. And I think maybe it's because you finally learn that over the course of the game, Ellie has slowly been showing that she is capable in taking down people herself. I think this was the moment that actually cemented it, and also cemented the father-daughter relationship between Joel and Ellie when he comes and tries to protect her. The most interesting moment comes in the end, where we realize that in order to extract a cure from Ellie, the procedure is going to kill her because it has reached her brain, and that's where they have to take everything out. So, in taking control of Joel, we do what most fathers would do, even if it's unreasonable.
I won't let you take her. This is our future. Think of all the lives we'll save. Don't come any closer. I mean it.
No! Fucking animal!
Carrie, shut that.
And this is where the game comes full circle, and it becomes more than just a generic post-apocalyptic story. This is a character study about Joel and him grieving for his daughter 20 years previously, and finding the love in a daughter that he never had with Ellie. So our one chance at saving the world, and we are asked to empathize with a man who makes the wrong choice for his own self-interest. And I think to me that's the most important part of this game, because you don't have a choice. This game does not give you any choice. You are Joel, and you kill that doctor and you save Ellie. So Joel tells her that there are many more people who are immune and they've stopped looking for a cure, which is not true, and Ellie's a little bit in disbelief. And in the final moment of this game, Ellie says, "Tell me everything that you're saying is true." And he says, "It's true." And she nods her head. She says, "Okay." And the game ends. And you can still tell by the look on her face that she's a little still in disbelief, but she's just gonna take it because Joel says it. And she has nothing else to really say. You know, they're past the Fireflies. She doesn't really have anybody to fact check what he's saying. So they're going back to Jackson to be with Tommy and Maria and live a whole new life. So the moral question at the heart of The Last of Us asks, are you the hero of this story just because you are taking control of this character? When, you know, in terms of the gameplay, Joel is an anti-hero. He's not good, he's not bad, which is why I would consider this entire game morally gray. When everything turns to shit and the dollar goes down and we're all fending for ourselves with our weapons, nobody is good, nobody is bad, and you have to do whatever it is you can to survive. And that means no matter what, there's going to be some blood on your hands. But can you empathize with a man who was a little selfish and contributed firsthand to the world falling deeper into turmoil with the cordyceps fungus? Can we forgive him? And apparently it seems with the backlash of part 2, it does seem that a lot of people probably have forgiven him. Now, speaking of part 2, which we will address in a later video, one can also ask ourselves, what kind of repercussions can one face by killing a doctor and pretty much stopping the cure for mankind? What kind of repercussions could those face in a potential sequel? But that's basically my thoughts on The Last of Us. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's one of those games where, and I'm just going to be honest about Last of Us Part 2, I'm in the middle of playing it, and it genuinely feels like I have the privilege to play something special and experience something special. The Last of Us Part 2 is just pretty much made for people like me. I love everything about this game, whereas I didn't really truly love The Last of Us. I liked it a lot, but it wasn't until I finished the game and it stuck with me for months on end. It stuck with me for years. I have not stopped thinking about this game since I originally played it in, I think, 2016 for the PS4. A game that's incredibly important to me, and if you have not played it, what are you doing? Go ahead and play it and then experience part 2. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you think of The Last of Us Part 1, and what are you thinking of Part 2.